Hey, it's Tuesday and not Monday. I was just tired yesterday and I didn't feel like getting on the computer a whole heck of a lot, so I apologize if this is late. This is the second video, but the third sermon. Last week's video was like 10 minutes. I'll try not to take 10 minutes to do this. Because the cool thing about these little John Hughes films is you can summarize the film and the sermon really in like 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a 10 to 15 minute deal, though I guess my sermons are 15-ish for this little series. Weird Science is a strange movie about two guys who invent Kelly LeBrock. They're 15 and she's 24, I think. She's the perfect woman. You know, she's 24, she's beautiful, and she's into 15-year-old boys. Is it a different era now or what? Anyway, already. It's only been 20 years. Let me just remind you a couple things. This is essentially what I did. I just want to let you know this is essentially what I talked about on Sunday. The Gospel according to John Hughes, week 1, was Pretty in Pink. The Gospel is try a little tenderness. Again, we talked about the rich young ruler, or the rich young man. Week 2, 16 Candles. God comes to the lost and the forgotten. Week 3 is Weird Science. I showed the clip where our two heroes, the zeros who become heroes in one fantastic weekend, are showing off for the bullies. You know, they've had this big party going on, and if you've seen the movie, it's where they go up and they've got the bras on their heads again. And this time, as opposed to ending up with a beautiful woman, they make a mistake, they forget to include the doll, and they end up with an ICBM missile in the house. And it ends as the missile protrudes from the roof, a little dove alights on the tip of it, and ding. Yeah, John Hughes is a clever guy, what can you say? So this is a moment where Lisa gets to tell her two young charges just how selfish they are. That people will love them not for what they can do for them, but for who they are. If that makes sense. That's essentially what's going on in this particular moment. The guys are trying to be cool, they're failing miserably, they're just becoming blowhards. Somewhere along the movie, they will discover that life isn't about them per se, and their happiness is actually contingent upon the happiness of others. So this is where they grow out of their 15-year-old fantasies. What I did was I gave two different scripture readings. One was from Genesis, the 11th chapter, and we did the Tower of Babel. And I discussed how the Tower of Babel is about hubris. And I say this simply because there's this wonderful phrase about how the people, human beings, wanted to create a name for themselves. So I talked about that a little bit and talked about how that's essentially a parallel for these two teenage boys who are trying to create a name for themselves. They're trying to be cool. That's all it is. It's such an innocent thing on paper, but it's actually spiritually quite dangerous. This desire to edify yourself, to get yourself out of loneliness. Because the film is also about their loneliness and what will actually bring an end to it. Building Lisa, in a sense, does, but it's not because of why they thought. It's not because suddenly they're a sexual object or that they've created an object of their own sexual desire. That's not actually what saves them. It's when they learn to care for others that they're saved. Yes, there's that word again, but let it be. But that's part of it. You know, what are we trying to be saved from? Ourselves. Self-love, narcissism, etc. Hubris. We are not God. They have a hard time with this lesson. The second scripture lesson I offered was Matthew's retelling of the Last Supper. Excuse me, that's my cell phone. That's Cyndi Lauper. When you're in church, turn off your cell phones. This is going long. I apologize. Essentially, the first Sunday of every month is our communion Sunday, community church. So we were having communion. It seemed to be a logical thing for me to do, a logical progression, to take us from fantasy love which is often expressed in hubris, to real love, which is found at the table, where there are people who betray us, people who will deny Christ. People will betray Christ, people will deny Christ, people will betray us, people will deny us. The world is a messy place. Real love takes place in the middle of a mess. It's not the denial of that mess. It's not some pretty thing where we can create a tower that takes us up to God. Real love, true love, interestingly enough, is messy. God's love meets us in the messiness of our lives. We can't actually deny any of that. We can't stop being 15-year-old boys and pretend we're someone else. The second we do that, we're actually lying, and the love is false. So I then invited people to the table to participate in what is a living kind of love. That the table fellowship is a messy thing. So that's John Hughes' Weird Science. Life in the church is a weird kind of science. It's not pretty, it's not clean, it's not mathematical. The sides seldom balance. One of my math teachers in high school used to say you can just plug it in and crank it out. If the math is good, you can just plug it in and crank it out when you're dealing with multiple equations, algebraic stuff, which I barely understand. But that phrase, plug it in and crank it out, stuck with me. There's a sense that sometimes I think we want that in life. We want to just be able to plug it in and crank it out. If, then that. If this, then that. No. If this, then something completely unrelated, 9 times out of 10. You just don't know. But we're invited to love nonetheless. We're invited into community to love one another in the middle of this mess nonetheless. It's a weird kind of science. And that was the sermon. Well, there you go. I hope you guys are well. Enjoy your day. This, again, is a lengthy post. And I got a phone call. I have no idea who it was from. If you know, you call me in the middle of this, whoever it's a 614 zip code, area code. I'll get to you very soon. Anyway, take care, enjoy your day, and I'll see you in a week.